My name is Faith Mercer. I am 34 years old. For as long as I can remember, my family had a label for everyone. My sister Jolene was the pretty one, my brother Caleb was the smart one, and me, I was the ugly one. They said it in front of neighbors, teachers, anyone who would listen. Last July, at our family's annual reunion, my Aunt Patricia introduced me to a woman I had never seen before and said, and I quote, "This is the one we don't talk about." I was standing right there, 34 years old, in front of 40 family members. But here is what none of them knew. That woman was not a random guest. And what she did next changed everything about the way my family sees me. I was 6 the first time I heard it. Jolene was 8. It was a Sunday in June, and my mother was sewing matching dresses for every girl in the family. My cousins, my sister, even my aunt's stepdaughter, who had been part of the family for exactly 4 months. Everyone got a dress except me. "Jolene needs something nice," my mother said when I asked. "She photographs well." I got Jolene's hand-me-down from Easter, a yellow dress with a stain on the collar that my mother did not bother to treat because she said it would not show up in pictures anyway. She was right. I was not in any of the pictures. That afternoon, we drove to my grandmother's house for a church potluck. I remember standing on the lawn in my stained dress while my Aunt Patricia held Jolene's face in both hands and said, "This one is going to break hearts." Then she looked at me, tilted her head, turned to a neighbor and said, "That one got the Mercer nose, poor thing." My mother heard it. She was standing 4 feet away. She did not correct Patricia. She did not say that is not kind. She laughed, a short, soft laugh like Patricia had said something everyone already knew. I stood there in the yellow dress, 6 years old. I did not know the word ugly was a verdict. I thought it was something you could wash off like the stain on my collar, something temporary. It was not temporary. My mother, I would learn many years later, had studied architecture for 1 year at the community college before she got pregnant with Jolene at 19. She dropped out, married my father, and never drew another building again. But I did not know that yet. All I knew was that my sister got a new dress and I got a label. The label worked like a sorting system. Once it was in place, everything else organized itself around it. School photos. Every fall, the order forms came home. And my mother ordered a full portrait package for Jolene. 8 by 10 glossy, framed living room wall. For me, she checked the box for wallet size, $2.50. The prints went into a kitchen drawer with expired coupons and dead batteries. Birthdays. Jolene got theme parties. Princess party at 7, spa party at 10, pool party at 12 with a DJ. My birthday was 3 weeks after my brother Caleb's. Every year my mother combined them. "It just makes sense," she said. The cake always said "Happy Birthday, Caleb" with my name squeezed underneath in smaller frosting letters, like an afterthought someone had caught at the last minute. Christmas morning. Jolene opened boxes of carefully chosen outfits. Coordinated sets, shoes that matched, a coat with a faux fur collar the year she turned 14. I got books. "You like reading, right?" my mother would say. Not as a question, but as an instruction. Here's what you are. Here's what you get. My brother Caleb played his part too, the smart one. He accepted his label and ran with it, straight out of the house at 17. Early admission to a state school 400 miles away. He was neither cruel to me nor kind. He was absent. And absence, I learned, is its own form of agreement. A label is not a word. It is a permission slip. It tells everyone around you exactly how much space you are allowed to take up, how much attention you deserve, how much effort you are worth. My family wrote that permission slip when I was 6, and every year after that they renewed it. If you want to know how a family really sees you, count the photographs. Our living room had 14 framed photos on the wall. My mother arranged them herself, gallery style, centered above the sofa. Jolene appeared in all 14. My brother appeared at 6. I appeared in 3. In the first one, I was partially hidden behind a cousin at a 4th of July picnic. In the second, my face was half cut by the frame's edge, like whoever mounted it did not notice me sliding out of view. In the third, I was 5, squinting into the sun, holding a balloon. That one stayed up because the balloon was red and matched the sofa cushions. The arrangement was not accidental. Every family photo session, my mother directed us like a set designer. Jolene front and center, Caleb left, Faith moves back a little. And I did, every time. One step back, two steps back, until I was furniture. At Jolene's high school graduation, my mother took 47 photos. I know because I saw the camera roll when she left her phone on the kitchen counter. 47. Different angles, different poses, some candid, some staged. At my graduation 2 years later, she took one photo. I was holding my diploma. I graduated with honors. The ceremony was 2 hours long. One photo. That summer, I started carrying a disposable camera, the yellow Kodak kind, 27 exposures. I took photos of myself at milestones, my first apartment, my first drafting table. The day I passed my licensing exam, I kept them in a shoebox under my bed. When no one takes your picture, you learn to become your own witness. You learn that if you do not document yourself, you disappear. And I had been disappearing for a long time. I left home at 18, scholarship to State University architecture program. My mother's reaction landed like every other verdict she had ever delivered. Swift, dismissive, final. Architecture, that is not really a career for someone like you. She said someone like you. The way she said everything about me, with a slight tilt of her chin, half pity, half correction. I did not know then that she had studied architecture herself. 1 year at the community college before Jolene arrived and the textbooks went into a box in the attic. I did not know that every time I said the word architecture, something inside her tightened. That information would come later, and when it did, it would explain a great deal. My father drove me to campus, 3.5 hours on Interstate 81, windows down, radio off. He was not a man who filled silence with words. He had spent 20 years in a house where my mother's voice was the only one that counted, and the habit of quiet had calcified into something permanent. But when he pulled up to the dormitory and set my suitcase on the curb, he said something I have carried with me for 16 years. Build something they cannot ignore. 6 words. The only directive he ever gave me. I hugged him. He held on longer than he usually did. Then he got in the car and drove away, and I did not see him again until Thanksgiving. That first night, I taped my shoebox photos on the dorm wall. My roommate, a girl from Baltimore named Tara, looked at them and asked about my family. They are fine, I said. What I meant was, I just drove 3.5 hours to get away from them, and it is the first time I have been able to breathe in 18 years. I built a career the way you restore a building, one layer at a time, starting with the foundation. Junior year, I landed an internship at the State Historic Preservation Office, unpaid. I worked nights at a diner called Rosie's near campus, eggs and coffee from 6 in the evening to 2 in the morning, then up at 7 for the preservation office. The tips were bad. The diner smelled like old grease. But the preservation office had a library with files on every historic structure in the state, and I read them all. My first real project came at 25. A 1920s Carnegie Library in a dying mill town in western Pennsylvania. The roof had collapsed. The town council voted to demolish it. I wrote a 32-page proposal arguing for restoration. They gave me 6 months and a budget that would not have covered the cost of the demolition they originally planned. I made it work. Reclaimed lumber, volunteer labor from the local high school shop class. I slept in my car 3 nights because the nearest motel was 40 miles away and I could not afford the gas. The library reopened on a Saturday in October. The town voted to name the reading room after me. I was 26. By 28, I had my own studio. 3 people, including me. We specialized in courthouses, churches, post offices, the bones of small towns that everyone else had given up on. By 32, a courthouse restoration in West Virginia won a state preservation award. Regional architecture journals wrote about us, then national ones. My family did not know. I had stopped sharing after Thanksgiving when I mentioned my first published article, and my mother said, "That is nice, honey. Jolene just closed on a 4-bedroom." I built a career in silence, not because I wanted to hide, but because no one ever asked. I was 16 the first time I understood my mother. We had a half day at school, and I came home early. The house was quiet. My mother was at work. Jolene at cheerleading practice. Caleb at robotics club. I went to the attic to look for a box of old encyclopedias my father said was up there. I needed them for a history project. The attic smelled like dust and mothballs, boxes everywhere, labeled in my mother's handwriting. Holiday decorations, baby clothes, tax returns, and one box pushed to the far corner labeled simply Diane College. I opened it. Inside was a sketchbook, green cover, spiral bound, the kind you buy at an art supply store. I flipped through it. Buildings. Dozens of buildings drawn in pencil, then traced in ink. Floor plans on one page, elevations on the next. A Victorian house with a wraparound porch. A downtown storefront with arched windows. A church steeple with handwritten notes about load-bearing walls and roof pitch. They were good drawings. Not a good student. Good. The kind of drawings that showed someone who understood not just how buildings looked, but how they stood up. My mother had been an architecture student. My mother had talent. My mother had dropped out at 19 because she got pregnant with my sister and married my father and never drew another building for the rest of her life. I sat on the attic floor for a long time. The dust particles floated in the light from the window. I looked at her drawings, and I understood something I could not have articulated then, but can now. Every time I talked about architecture, every time I brought home a good grade in my drafting class, every time I said the word design at the dinner table, my mother did not see a daughter. She saw a mirror she could not bear to look into. I put the sketchbook back. I never told her I found it. You would think that leaving home fixes things. That distance and time and a career you built with your own hands would rewrite the story. But families have long memories and short attention spans. They remember the label. They forget to look at who you became. Thanksgiving 2 years before the reunion. I drove 4 hours to my parents' house because my father asked me to come. He always asked. My mother never did. Jolene was there, holding court in the kitchen. She and her husband had just renovated their kitchen. Quartz countertops, a farmhouse sink, subway tile backsplash. My mother was running her hand across the countertop like she was petting a thoroughbred. Jolene, this is just gorgeous. You have always had such taste. I sat at the table with my coffee. When there was a pause, I mentioned that a courthouse project I had led in West Darda, Virginia, had won a state preservation award. Silence. 2 full seconds of nothing. Then my mother. That is nice. Can you pass the cranberries? Jolene, leaning against her quartz countertop. Is that like flipping houses? I said no, not exactly. She tilted her head. Well, it sounds like a hobby. After dinner, I helped with the dishes. My mother was at the sink. Aunt Patricia was drying. They thought I was in the other room, but I was right behind them, reaching for a towel. My mother said to Patricia in the voice she used when she thought she was being discreet, "At least she is keeping busy. I just wish she would do something about it." And then she made a gesture. She waved her hand in front of her own face. She did not even say the word anymore. She just gestured, and Patricia laughed. I gripped the dish towel. I did not turn around. I finished the dishes and I drove home, 4 hours in the dark. 6 months after that Thanksgiving, my father had a stroke. A minor one, the doctor said. He lost some mobility on his left side but kept his speech. He was lucky. I drove 4 hours to the hospital the night it happened. When I walked into his room, my mother and Jolene were already there. My mother looked up. "Oh, you came. Not warmth. Surprise." Like I had showed up to a party I was not invited to. I stayed 3 days while my father recovered. I helped organize his home office, filing insurance papers, finding his medication list, clearing out the desk drawers. That is when I found it. Bottom drawer. A manila folder, thick, held together with a rubber band. I pulled it out. Inside, articles, every one of them about me. Press clippings from small-town newspapers, printouts from architecture blogs I had never heard of, award announcements, a scanned copy of the article from the West Virginia Preservation Journal, a photograph of the restored library. He had printed it on regular paper from his home computer, slightly pixelated, the colors a little too warm. The folder spanned 8 years. He had been collecting them since my first published project. Some of the blog printouts had URLs so long they wrapped across 3 lines of text, which meant he had sat at his slow desktop computer and typed them character by character. He never told my mother. He never shared them with anyone. He just kept them in the bottom drawer under his tax returns. I sat on the floor of his office with the folder in my lap. I did not cry. I just sat there holding the weight of 8 years of silent witness. Later, my father saw me standing in the doorway. He looked at the folder in my hands. He did not speak. He nodded once. My father never said the words, but he kept the receipts. July came with the kind of heat that turns the air visible. Shimmering waves rising off asphalt, cicadas sawing through the afternoon, and the annual Mercer family reunion held every year at my grandmother's house. My grandmother passed away 3 years ago. My mother inherited the house and insisted on keeping the reunion tradition alive. Not because she loved tradition, because she loved having a stage. I had not attended in 2 years. This year I went for my father. His stroke had slowed him. He walked with a cane now, and his left hand curled slightly when he was tired. He still drove himself to the barber every 2 weeks. He still read the newspaper on the porch. But something in his face had shifted, a tiredness that had nothing to do with his body. He asked me to come. I said yes. Meanwhile, in my work life, something had been developing for 3 months. Nora Whitfield, the senior features editor at American Preservation magazine, had been emailing me about a profile. She was writing a multi-part series on preservation architects working in rural Theta America. She wanted me as the centerpiece. We exchanged emails about logistics, which projects to photograph, which town officials to interview, when to schedule the shoot. Professional, measured, the kind of communication I am most comfortable with. In one email, I mentioned I would be in Hadley over the weekend for a family gathering. I told her the town had a restored 1890s train depot worth seeing. If you're ever in the area, I wrote, I might just do that. She wrote back. I did not think much of it. People say they will stop by and then they do not. That is how the world works. You make loose plans and then life happens and the loose plans drift away like smoke. I invited her to see a building. I did not invite her to see my family. I pulled into the gravel driveway at noon. The yard was already full. Pickup trucks, minivans, a couple of sedans with out-of-state plates. Folding tables stretched across the grass with checkered tablecloths clipped at the corners. Coolers lined the fence. Smoke rose from the grill where my uncle's charcoal had been going since morning. I sat in my car for 3 minutes. I counted my breaths. In for 4, out for 6. A technique I learned from a therapist I saw twice in my 20s before my insurance changed. Then I got out and walked in. The greetings told the story. Jolene arrived with her husband and 2 kids. Hugs, squeals. Jolene, you look amazing. My mother held Jolene's youngest on her hip and beamed. I walked in. Nods. Hey, Faith. Oh, hi. Uncle Ray leaning against the fence with a lemonade. Good to see you, Faith. He said it like he meant it. Aunt Patricia did not look up from the potato salad she was arranging on a folding table. She was wearing a visor and talking to a cousin about someone's divorce. My mother was holding court at the main table. She saw me, paused. Oh, Faith, you made it. I was not sure you were coming. She said it with a little lift of surprise, performative, like she was welcoming a neighbor who had wandered in by mistake. I found my father in a lawn chair near the edge of the yard under the big oak, away from the noise. He had his cane leaning against the armrest and a glass of water on the ground beside him. I sat in the empty chair next to him. He squeezed my hand. No words needed. Near the entrance there was a table with pre-written name tags. Everyone had one, except me. There was a blank tag and a marker. I wrote my own. 42 people at that reunion. I was the only one who had to write her own name. My mother had arranged seating for the main table. Place cards in her handwriting, neat cursive on folded cardstock. Diane, Gerald, Jolene, Marcus, Jolene's husband, Patricia, Ray. I walked the length of the table, checked every card. My name was not there. It was not at the second table either, or the third. I was expected to find a spot at the folding chairs, the overflow seating, the table where the children sat, legs swinging, ketchup on their fingers. So I sat there between a 7-year-old named Bryson, who was building a tower out of chips, and a 10-year-old girl playing a game on her mother's phone. From the kids' table, I could see the main table clearly. Jolene's husband Marcus was talking about their new vacation property. 3 bedrooms right on the lake. We got it for under 4. My mother leaned forward, nodding, invested, proud. Jolene scrolled her phone, occasionally looking up to add a detail. A cousin I barely recognized approached me. So what do you do again? Before I could answer, Aunt Patricia's voice carried across the yard. She does something with old buildings, fixing them up or something. She waved her hand, the same hand gesture my mother used for my face. I am an architect, I said. Patricia, right, like on those home shows. Not exactly. My mother from the main table, not even turning around. Jolene, tell everyone about the beach house. I ate in silence. Potato salad, a hamburger that was slightly pink in the middle, a cup of lemonade that tasted like it had been mixed with too much water. I watched the dynamics I had been watching for 34 years. The same choreography, the same roles, the same script. I had been watching this performance my entire life. What I did not know was that someone else was about to watch it too. A car I did not recognize pulled into the driveway. A silver sedan, out of state plates. The driver's side door opened and a woman stepped out. She was about 50, lean, dressed in a way that did not match the reunion. A linen blazer over a simple white shirt, dark slacks, a leather portfolio bag slung over one shoulder. She looked around the yard the way you look at a room you were not expecting to walk into. It was Nora Whitfield. She had driven 90 minutes from her hotel. She spotted me near the oak tree and walked over. Faith, you actually came. I told you I was going to be here. You did. She looked around again. I wanted to see the train depot, but also I brought the layout proofs for the feature. I thought we could go over them now. If this is a bad time, I can come back. I looked at the yard. My mother rearranged the dessert table. Jolene taking a selfie with 3 cousins. Patricia refilling her drink. It is always a bad time here, I said. Come on. I led her to the kids' table. We sat down. She opened her leather portfolio and spread out printed photos of my completed projects. Full color, high resolution. The courthouse, the library, the church in Ohio. She sat at the kids' table with me, the first person who ever chose to. It took Aunt Patricia about 12 minutes to notice. She had a radar for anything that deviated from the script, and a well-dressed stranger sitting at the kids' table with printed photographs was a significant deviation. She walked over, visor pushed back on her head, drink in one hand, smile on full display. Well, hello, are you a friend of someone's? I started to speak. Patricia did not let me finish. She turned to Nora, tilted her head, and delivered the line she had probably said 100 times in her life. The line she had polished smooth with repetition. This is the one we don't talk about. She said it with a laugh, a casual insider laugh, like she was sharing a charming family anecdote, like it was endearing, like it was cute. Nora's face went still. Not angry, still, the way a camera goes still before the shutter clicks. She looked at Patricia, then at me, then back at Patricia. I am sorry. What did you say? Patricia doubled down. She always doubled down. Oh, it is just a family thing. Every family has one right. The quiet one, the plain one. She waved her hand, the same dismissive wave I had been watching since I was 6. Nora did not laugh. She set down her coffee cup slowly, deliberately, the way someone does when they have decided something. My mother appeared at the end of the table. She had seen the stranger. Her territorial instinct kicked in before her courtesy did. Who is your friend? Faith, the word friend carried the weight of suspicion. I opened my mouth. Nora spoke first. I will introduce myself in a moment, if that is all right. I would like to wait until everyone is listening. The air shifted. Something was about to happen that had never happened at a Mercer family reunion before. Nora leaned toward me, low, quiet. May I show them? I looked at her. They will not care. I am not asking if they will care. I'm asking if you will let me. I looked across the yard. My father is in his lawn chair under the oak. My mother at the dessert table cutting a pie with the precision of someone who needs to control even the size of slices. Jolene taking photos with cousins. Patricia circulating, performing, working the crowd. 40 years of this. 34 of them with my name attached to the wrong story. I nodded once. Nora stood. She smoothed her blazer. She picked up her leather portfolio and she walked to the main table with the confidence of someone who has addressed rooms full of strangers for a living. Excuse me, she said. Not loud, not theatrical, just clear enough that the people at the main table turned. I know this is a family gathering, and I apologize for intruding, but may I have everyone's attention for just one moment? The yard went quiet in layers. The main table first, then the second table, then the kids near the sprinkler. Someone turned down the Bluetooth speaker. 42 people turned their faces toward a woman they did not know. My mother's smile froze. Patricia set down her drink. Nora reached into her blazer pocket. She pulled out a business card. She held it between two fingers and handed it to my mother. My name is Nora Whitfield. I am the senior features editor at American Preservation Magazine. A pause. My mother looked at the card, turned it over, and looked back up. Nora continued. I drove 90 minutes to be here today, not for the reunion. And then she said the 7 words that rewrote 34 years of labels. I am here because of her. Nora pointed at me. Not a dramatic gesture, a simple extension of her arm, palm open. The way you identify someone in a lineup. Factual, certain. The yard went silent. The kind of silence where you can hear ice shifting in a cooler 20 feet away. Nora opened her leather portfolio. She held up the first printed photograph. My restored courthouse in West Virginia. Afternoon light catching the limestone facade. This building was scheduled for demolition 3 years ago. Your daughter saved it. Her restoration won the State Preservation Award. She held up the second photo. The 1920s library in Pennsylvania, its arched windows gleaming. This was her first major project. She was 25. The town voted to name the reading room after her. A third photo. A white clapboard church in rural Ohio, steeple restored, stained glass cleaned and relit. The congregation wrote us 63 letters. 63 families asked us to feature the architect who saved their church. She set the photos on the table, spread them out so everyone could see. My mother stared at them like someone had placed foreign objects in front of her. Jolene's phone was on the table, face down for the first time all day. Nora looked at my mother, then at Patricia, then at the rest of the family, table by table, face by face. Faith Mercer is one of the most important preservation architects working in America today. She has saved 11 buildings across 4 states. Her feature will run as our October cover story. She paused. Let the words land, and she is your family. I assumed you knew. The politest devastation I have ever witnessed. 5 words I assumed you knew. Delivered without judgment, without malice, just pure professional clarity. Patricia put down her drink, her mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mother recovered first. Instinct. Decades of controlling the family narrative had built a reflex that fired faster than honesty. Well, of course we knew. Her voice was bright. Too bright. The voice she used when the pastor came for dinner or when a neighbor dropped off a casserole after my father's stroke. We have always been very proud. She smiled. The smile did not reach her eyes. It stopped somewhere around her cheekbones and stayed there, pinned in place like a corsage. I said nothing. I watched my mother lie to a room full of people who had watched her diminish me for 3 decades, and not one of them looked surprised. They were used to it. This was just a new version of the same performance. Aunt Patricia pivoted. I was just teasing earlier. Faith knows I adore her. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Not dramatically, just enough that her hand closed in the air. Jolene went defensive, her default setting. I mean, we knew she did renovation stuff. She never really talked about it. She crossed her arms, the universal posture of someone rewriting history in real time. Nora said nothing. She stood with her portfolio under her arm and watched the family recalibrate. She had seen what she needed to see. At the second table, a cousin whispered something to her husband. Uncle Ray set down his plate. He was watching me, not my mother, not Patricia, me. And then my father's niece, a 16-year-old named Samantha, who I had met exactly twice, walked over from the sprinkler, water dripping from her hair. She looked at the photos on the table, looked at me. Wait, Aunt Faith, a town named a room after you. I looked at her. I smiled. The first real smile of the day. They did. That is so cool. Simple, honest, and the contrast with every adult in that yard was devastating. My mother found me near the kitchen screen door. She had waited until the crowd thinned around the main table, until attention had scattered, until she could corner me without witnesses. She had been doing this my whole life, saving the worst conversations for private spaces where no one could verify what she said. Why would you do this? Her voice was low, controlled, the kind of control that is 1 degree away from breaking. Why would you bring a stranger to humiliate me? I did not bring her to humiliate anyone. She came because she thinks my work matters. Your work. She said it twice, as if repetition could drain the word of meaning. Your work. Do you know what I gave up so you could go to that school? I sacrificed everything for this family. There it was, the script she had been reciting for 35 years. The script that turned every conversation about my accomplishments into a monologue about her losses. You sacrificed your architecture program when you got pregnant with Jolene, I said. I know. I found your sketchbook. The color left her face, not slowly, all at once, like someone had pulled a drain plug. She stared at me. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out for 3 full seconds. That is none of your business. You are a talented mom. You are really talented. I kept my voice even, but that is not my fault. She could not respond to that. There was no script for it. No deflection, no victim narrative that could absorb the simple fact that her daughter had seen her talent, acknowledged it, and refused to apologize for inheriting it. My mother turned, walked to the bathroom. I heard the lock click. The woman who had spent 34 years making me invisible had just made herself disappear. I found Nora near her car. Thank you for coming. I mean it. I did not do this for drama, she said. I did it because your work deserves to be seen. The magazine piece will run regardless of what your family thinks. I know. She handed me a folder, the formal layout proofs for the feature, annotated with her editor's notes. Look these over when you are ready. No rush. I took the folder, set it on the passenger seat of my car. Then I turned and walked back across the yard. Every eye followed me. Not because I was the ugly one, because I was the one who mattered. My father was still in his lawn chair under the oak tree. He had not moved during any of it, not during Nora's reveal, not during my mother's performance, not during any of the conversations that followed. He sat with his hands on his cane and his eyes on the yard, watching his family the way he had always watched them. From the edge, with the expression of a man who wanted to speak but had forgotten where he put his voice. His eyes were wet. I pulled a chair next to his, sat down, took his hand, the one with the slight curl from the stroke. I found the photos of Dad in the study, the ones you took at my graduation. His chin trembled. He looked at the oak branches overhead, then back at me. 15 photos, I said. You took 15. 3 seconds of silence. Then in a voice I had to lean close to hear. Should have been more. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out one of the graduation photos. The one of me at 22, beaming, holding my diploma, looking straight at the camera with a face that was not ugly, a face that was proud. And the folder, Dad, in your desk. 8 years of clippings. He squeezed my hand. The curl in his fingers tightened. I should have said something, he said, his voice caught. Should have fought harder for you. You kept the receipts, Dad. I put the graduation photo in his hand. He held it the way you hold something fragile. Keep this one in the living room. Not in a box. He looked at the photo, ran his thumb across the glossy surface. The image of his daughter at 22, on the day his wife took one photograph and he took 15. He nodded, the same nod from the hospital doorway, slow, full of everything he never said. I got in my car, set the envelope with the offer letter on the passenger seat next to the layout proofs. On top of them, I placed the graduation photo, a copy my father insisted I keep. One for me, one for you, he had said, a pact between 2 quiet people. I pulled out of the gravel driveway. I did not look in the rearview mirror. The highway unfolded ahead of me, straight and long and empty in the way that only summer highways in the early evening can be. I drove with the windows down. I did not turn on the radio. The wind was enough. The silence was enough. 50 miles in The phone buzzed. A text from my father. 2 words. Proud always. I pulled over onto the shoulder, read it twice. The screen blurred for a moment, and I realized my eyes were wet. I wiped them with the back of my hand, put the phone in the cup holder, and kept driving. I spent 34 years trying to prove I was worth seeing. Turns out I did not need to prove anything. I just needed to stop looking for the proof in the wrong place. 3 months later, the October issue landed. My face was on the cover. The face my family called ugly for 34 years, on the cover of a national architecture magazine. I was photographed standing in front of the restored courthouse in West Tart, Virginia. Not smiling, not posing, just standing with my arms at my sides, looking straight into the camera the way my father taught me to stand. Steady, present, accounted for. My father framed the cover. He hung it on the living room wall next to Jolene's high school graduation photo. My mother did not take it down. She did not acknowledge it either. It just hung there. A quiet fact in a house that had spent decades avoiding facts about me. Jolene texted once, saw the magazine. Congratulations, I replied, thank you, nothing more. Aunt Patricia had not spoken to me since the reunion. Uncle Ray sent a letter, handwritten on lined paper from a legal pad. Should have said something years ago. Sorry does not cover it, but it is all I have. I folded the letter, put it in my desk, drawer next to my father's folder. My mother did not call, not once. I did not wait by the phone. My studio, late afternoon. The light coming through the windows was the same amber as that evening at the reunion, and I let it sit on my desk without turning on the overhead. The shoebox was still there. The same shoebox from college, now held together with packing tape at one corner. Inside, the photos I took of myself when no one else would. My first apartment, in my first drafting table, the day I passed my licensing exam, all taken with disposable cameras, the yellow Kodak kind. I added 2 new photographs, the magazine cover and a photo of me standing in front of an old gas station I had spotted on the highway, the kind of building most people drive past without a second glance. Then I added one more, the photo of me at 10 years old behind the plant in the hand-me-down dress, the one I slipped from the album at the reunion. I held it up. Small girl, big plant, no one looking at her. I held up the cover. 34-year-old woman standing alone, everyone looking at her. Same girl, I said to the empty room. Same girl. I placed the photos side by side in the shoebox, closed the lid, and set it on the shelf above my desk where my drafting tools used to sit. Some people keep trophies. I keep proof that I was here. Here is what I know now. You cannot restore a family that does not want to be fixed, but you can build a life that does not need their approval to stand. Every building I have ever saved started the same way. Someone looked at it and said it was worthless. And then someone else looked closer, saw the bones, saw the craft, saw what it could become if someone just cared enough to try. I was never the ugly one. I was just in the wrong room. Most people spend their whole lives waiting for their family to see them. They keep showing up to reunions, keep answering calls, keep hoping that one day the people who labeled them will take it back. They wait for an apology that never comes. They shrink themselves to fit into a story that was written before they had any say. And they call that loyalty. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I did. I stopped waiting. I stopped performing. I stopped trying to make people who had decided I was worthless see evidence to the contrary. I took my disposable camera, my shoebox, my father's quiet folder of clippings, and I built something they could not ignore. Not for them, for me. And when they finally looked, when a stranger with a business card forced them to see what had been in front of them for 34 years, I did not need their approval anymore. The validation I had spent my whole life craving had already happened. It happened every time I chose myself, every time I documented my own milestones, every time I drove 4 hours to a building no one else thought was worth saving. You have a choice right now. You can keep going back to the table where your name is not on a place card. You can keep standing at the edge of the photo hoping someone will notice you are missing. You can keep calling it family. Or you can do what I did. You can pick up your own camera. You can write your own name. You can build something so undeniable that when they finally look, it will not matter anymore whether they see you or not, because you will have already seen yourself. The question is not whether your family will ever see you. The question is whether you are ready to stop waiting for them to. Most people hesitate at this moment. They tell themselves maybe next year, maybe after one more holiday, maybe if I just try harder to explain. But buildings do not wait. They collapse or they get restored. Families are the same way. They either see you now or they lose the chance. I chose to stop waiting. I chose to be my own witness. I chose to take the photo, write my name, and walk out of that yard with my head up. Not because I stopped loving my family, but because I finally started loving myself more. That is the story. 34 years of labels, one stranger with a business card, a father who kept receipts in silence, and a daughter who learned that the most important room you will ever walk into is the one where people see your worth without you having to prove it. If you have been the one your family overlooks, the one they introduce with a joke, the one whose name is never on the place card, I want you to know something. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are not the problem. You are just in the wrong room. And the day you walk out of that room and into a space where your work speaks louder than their labels, where your silence is respected and your presence is valued, you will understand what I learned at 34. The people who matter do not make you beg to be seen. They see you without you having to shrink, explain, or apologize. They see you the way my father saw me, quietly, consistently, with a folder full of proof that you mattered all along. That is what I want you to take from this. Not revenge, not bitterness, not even reconciliation. Just the quiet knowledge that you do not need anyone's permission to matter. You never did. The only question left is this: are you ready to pick up your own camera and start taking pictures? Or are you going to wait another 34 years for someone else to notice you are missing from the frame? The choice has always been yours. I just hope you make it sooner than I did.